Julia Moonberg versus Amelia Evans. Nice. Ooh. Whoa. What did she just do? Yo, you guys. This is Blacklist to the Abyss, and this is my review for Freezing Vibrations, Episode 8. Now, this one, it starts off with Gango Aoi, and he's watching footage of Gina's match with Satella from a few episodes ago. And I have a problem with this. I don't. My problem isn't with the content and what actually happened. It's actually with Gango Aoi's character design because in the manga he looks completely different. So much so that I didn't even recognize that it was Gango Aoi at first. Suna showed up, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's Gango Aoi. But he looks nothing like the original Gango Aoi in the manga. So I don't know what they were thinking when they changed his design up like that. He looks stupid now. But if you guys remember, Gengar, we actually saw him towards the beginning of the series, maybe the first episode of the season, I mean, not the series in general. Uh, Maybe like the first or second episode, we saw clips of Gango Aoi on the news or something because he was against the E-Pandora project. So he's watching this footage of Gina and he's asking Suna what she thinks about it. And Suna Lee, she's the strongest active duty Pandora that they have. Okay, so she's just that. She's the strongest Pandora. Right? We act like, people like Roxanne and Charles and Julia and Cassie, Elizabeth, Chiffon, Ticey, Arnett, Satella, that were acting Rana, were acting like these girls are like incredibly strong, but then you compare them to someone like Suna Lee, and they're probably complete crap, except for maybe Chiffon. But I just want to see. I would love to see Suna Lee in a fight of some sort. I would love to see that. But who knows when that'll happen. But like I was saying, Gengo asks her what she thinks about the Pandora project, and she says something interesting. Just like Gengo, I never really thought of it this way before, but she says that she chose this way of living so that her children wouldn't have to, and that if they send those who need protection onto the battlefield, then there's no point in having Pandora. And I can understand what she means by that, but at the same time, there are girls that want to be Pandora but can't because they don't have high enough compatibility with Stigmata. So overall, I still think the Pandora project it's a good idea. It's just not being executed very well because you have people like the secretary who just don't give a crap about the well-being of the Pandora, and he's sacrificing as many as possible to get a result as quickly as possible because, like he said later on this episode, the public wants to see results. But he is kind of going to extremes in order to get them. But execution aside, the idea in general is a good idea because there are a lot of people who would want to become Pandoras but can't. I think Elizabeth might have said something similar in like episode 1 or 2 or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for their scene. The very last part is Satella's dad, Howard L. Bridget, calling Gango, and I'm assuming it has something to do with the Pandora project. The two of them are going to tag team in order to try and ruin it. The Mableys couldn't do it alone, so now the two of them are going to work together to take down Chevalier. Especially since Gango Aoi is pretty like he's pretty famous in terms of like Pandora stuff. I mean, he's the one who came up with the idea. I think the idea for Pandora. He's the guy. So if he, well, again, people already knew he was against it, but if he works together with Howard L. Bridget, then Chevalier might actually be forced to do something. I guess that's what Howard L. Bridget's thinking is. But after this, we see Scarlett O'Hara. She's talking with the secretary, and he tells her to get the Mark IV experiment started up again. And she's telling him, that doesn't make sense. We just did this with Gina, and it failed. It doesn't make sense to just waste our test subjects when we know it's going to fail. Anyway, this doesn't make sense. We should improve it first and then see if it works on them. And he says, no, I did that already. And she's saying, I'm the director of this project. You can't go behind my back like that, go over my head and do stuff like this. And he tells her, you don't know what your position is, okay? He pretty much puts her in her place, pretty much, and tells her that she's not in control, it's him. So after that, we end up seeing Char. It's a shower scene with some random Pandora and Char. And the gist of it, pretty much all you need to take away from it is what Char's position is. And we've seen this before, but now it's like she still has to resolve even after the whole situation with Gina. She believes that no matter what happens, you should follow your orders because that's what they're supposed to do. They're soldiers and they follow their orders. That's it. They don't need to think about whether what they're doing is right or not. Right, so that's pretty much all I need to take away from that scene. But after this, we see Rattle, and she's just eating a lot. Like she's always liked food, just because she's never been able to have it before. So she always tries to eat a lot when she can. But now she's eating even more than usual. Emilia's asking her, what's wrong? And we end up learning that she's been chosen to be the next test subject for Mark IV. And Emilia, she goes to Scarlet and says, hey, she tries to do a couple things. She tries to stop the experiment on Rattle, postpone it a little bit, and she also tries to get herself selected as the next participant. But Scarlet gives her the same runaround that she usually gives her, and tells her that nothing's going to change, everything's going to go as planned, and there's nothing she can do about it. There's nothing Emilia can do about it, because there's nothing that she can do about it, because she's just put in her place by the secretary. She can't do anything. So that's that. After that, we see Roxanne talking with her friends. They're jogging in the snow with like no clothes on. I don't know what's up with Japan and like. I mean, she's not Japanese. She's American, I think. But I'm talking about Japanese series. I mean, Freezing is a Japanese series. It's made by a Korean guy, but it's still a Japanese series. And they just love having girls with as few clothes on as possible in the snow. I don't know. Or in the cold, I should say, but whatever. They're jogging and they get to talking, and they actually talk about Nova. And Roxanne has this interesting line. She says something along the lines of, "And it's not like they're going to appear here or anything, And whenever a manga or anime character says something like that, the exact opposite is going to happen. So the chances are a Nova is going to appear. And seeing as though Gina turned into a Nova, it's not hard to believe, especially since the remaining E Pandora took Mark IV at the end of the episode. So I wouldn't be surprised if all 6 of them turned into Nova or something like that. But then again, they'd probably be stopped before they got to legit Nova status. But whatever. You can make your own theories about that, since I know what's going to happen from the manga. But after they talk about the Novas and whether they'll appear or not, they end up talking about this photon generator that the Alaska lab has, and apparently it has 20 years worth of solar energy, which is 100 million times the power of a nuclear bomb. So they're trying to figure out, why do they have this here? What exactly do they need to power? And later in the episode, we see Scarlet looking at Maria Lancelot, I think her name is, her body and her remains. So it probably has something to do with all that secret stuff they have going on down there. But after that, they end up talking about the Tower of Babel, which we also hear about later on through flashback. And Roxanne compares it to their own situation, because the Tower of Babel was this tower that humans built in order to be closer to God, and he decided to destroy it. And the comparison being made is that Pandora are like the Tower of Babel. Pandora are the humans' way of getting closer to God, but in a different sense though. Rather than physically getting closer to Him, they're actually trying to get closer to Him in the sense that they want to become more powerful, get more power, get more God-like power, and the Nova, and it's insinuated that the Nova are a punishment for humans trying to get that power. And in the flashback, in the Gango Aoi Scarlett O'Hara flashback we get later on, he says a similar thing, except he doesn't go as far. He says that rather than saying the Pandora in general are the Tower of Babel, he says that the Pandora project is the Tower of Babel, and that the Nova are divine punishment, and that pretty much it means the Pandora project is going to fail. Pretty much, it's not going to work out, and it's just going to end up screwing over humanity. But it was a good idea while it lasted. But after the original talk of the Tower of Babel with Roxanne and everything, we go to Amelia, and she's talking with Elizabeth. She goes to talk to Elizabeth, and Andre lets her in, eavesdrops on the conversation now. So he'll probably. Well, at first I thought he was going to spread word to the other Pandora like Satella and Rana and Cassie, but that's not really necessary at this point. So I don't really see what the purpose of him eavesdropping was, but whatever. Maybe so he can tell him. No, even then he hears the sirens. Like whatever. The point is Amelia talks to Elizabeth, and I say talks, but Elizabeth's unconscious and she isn't hearing anything Amelia says. So she's talking to Elizabeth's unconscious body, and she says that the Pandora are going to fight back. And after this, we see them actually trying to create their escape plan. And while they do that, Rana, she's taking a bath, and Cassie Lockhart, she shows up along with Julia Moonberg, and she lets it slip that about what happened to Elizabeth. So she takes them to Elizabeth's room, and they kind of just learn more about what's going on with her. But Julia Moonberg, she doesn't care at all. So we can tell, like, the title of this episode was Rebellion. So it's pretty clear by what happens in this episode that people are going to be choosing sides, and it's at this moment made it very clear what side that Julia was going to take, and she does take that side later on. She's just like Char. She thinks, just follow your orders. That's it. That's all you need to do. You don't need to think. You don't need to go against Chevalier. That's not necessary. They have their reasons for doing what they're doing, so all we have to do is follow them. That's for the best. And which does make sense. I mean, you wouldn't see like the American military or some other country's military, like their random soldiers going against the U.S. and like causing this big rebellion and everything. That's not, no, just no. You get an order, you do it, But so I do understand where she's coming from, and she is right. It's an ethical type of situation where both sides are right, and you just have to. It just comes down to a personal opinion. But after that, we get that flashback with Gango Aoi and Scarlett. We also, after that, we see Scarlett going to see Maria, like I mentioned before, which is probably the reason why they have all that solar energy stored up in the photon generator and stuff. But Amelia, after this, we end up seeing Amelia break into where they're holding the Mark IV stuff, and she's going to go take it for herself, and then try to just sacrifice herself to let the others escape. But then Rattle and the others, they show up, and they say, no, we're not going to let you do this on your own. We're all going to fight together, and we're all going to get out. I don't want to sacrifice one of my friends just to, save myself. I don't want to do things that way. So they all end up taking Mark IV, and all that sentimental talk was kind of cool. It still doesn't change the fact that they wasted a lot of time, and the Pandora ended up showing up. Rattle and the others managed to hold them back, though, so Amelia manages to get through and leave, but she ends up running into Julia Moonberg, which, she chose her side. And she does this cool, invisible attack kind of thing. I don't even really know how to describe it. It looked like she was just like focusing wind into her hand, and then she just kind of threw it. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was pretty cool. um, would that be considered her fault? Like we've never seen Pandora do have random special abilities like that. You know, just like wind control. But like it has to have something to do with her vault weapon. But I'm sure we'll find out sooner or later. Amelia ends up being protected by Kazuya and Satella, though. They finally show up. They never left, but you know, anime original garbage messes everything up. And I'm sure they did a lot of anime original stuff in this episode, too. I'm positive. Because I just don't. It's gotten to the point where I just don't feel like rereading like 20 chapters of the manga every week just to find out what exactly they did that was filler. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna, unless I see something that I specifically remember, then I'm not gonna go back and double check everything and point out that stuff is filler. But the point is, Kazuya and Satella show up and they defend Amelia, and Julia asks them like, "Are you siding with the traitor?" And Satella says no. But the answer is yes. I don't know why she thought the answer was no. She's siding with Amelia. So yes, she is siding with the traitors. I don't know what the point of her saying no was. It's not true. But that's how the episode ends. Amelia versus Julia turns into Amelia, Satella, and Kazuya versus Julia. And this scene at the end kind of makes the opening start to make more sense. Because in the opening, we see Chiffon fighting against Rana. And at first you're thinking, why would Chiffon be fighting against Rana? Yeah, why? That doesn't make sense. But now it does. Everyone's starting to choose their sides. This rebellion is happening, and everyone's Pandora fighting each other. So it should be pretty clear which side Rana is going to take and which side Chiffon is going to take. But if not, I'll just leave it there for you to think about. But that's pretty much the end of the episode. And I'll say that this episode was, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I mean, it was okay. The stuff happened at the end. Stuff happened at the end that was cool. And we got that stuff about the Tower of Babel, but I mean, it's pretty much just an okay episode. You know, nothing really. There's not much that's legitimately worth mentioning other than the Pandora deciding to rebel. You know, but and that didn't really legitimately happen until like the last 2 minutes. So. Yeah, but that's it for this review of Freezing Vibrations. Like I said, it gets a 6.5 out of 10. And that's it. Rate, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.